no longer a weakness. They feel better about it because they feel confident enough on something they need to know.
Oh, let's go. Party time.
It's a whole continuum, and every single preference is on that continuum.
Adjust their chin angle down so they can perceive the ball up a little bit more.
All right, here we go. Another episode, MPE Pod. Very special guest this week. This month, we have Laura Heberling coming from Kansas. She serves, Rock Chalk is right. She served as, in her career, the head coach, associate coach, assistant coach, a student assistant. She's kind of done it all. Kind of known for developing pitchers and working with pitchers. In 23, she helped at the staff at Maryland to their best season since 2011, finishing 38-19 with a 3.15 team ERA, 312 strikeouts. Coach freshman Kira Booker, who led the nation in saves and set the Big Ten single season record with 12. And in 2015, she was named Sun Conference Coach of the Year. Welcome to the show, Laura. Appreciate you coming on.
Come on now.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. You guys, these two guys right here, you guys are amazing what you do. So thank you guys.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we'll Venmo you after the show. That's right. Yep. How's everything going? The season's around the corner. We're kind of just breaking it down a little bit before we got recording here, but season's here. It's crazy. How are we feeling?
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good. You know, we came back a couple weeks ago. Since I'm at University of Kansas, I was talking to our head coach, and she said it was like the first time that a team that she's had here in her 8 years has gotten on the field like first couple days. So like it's been awesome. So we've been on the field for a little bit, and then we got pounded with snow like most of everybody in the US. And we leave for Florida next week, and I can't wait to see some sunshine and get out on the field and start competing with a great group of players we have this year. So
yeah, it's always
speaking of
the best time of the year there. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, speaking of the snow, I mean, I'm glad it's a level playing field for the entire country. I feel like almost half the country got the snow as well. So it's not just Northeast schools having the disadvantage of being snowed in. Everyone's getting a little taste this year.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm like, we're all even now. Let's go day one. We're all hitting the dirt.
Absolutely. I know Matt was out there shoveling the past couple days and getting his workouts in the snow. So no, I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited for you guys to get to Florida too and get a little bit out of the cold and get some warm weather. So that's going to be awesome.
Yes.
So the first thing I wanted to kind of go into was your background and how you got into coaching, kind of early influences for you, kind of talk to that your path and how you've kind of started your journey so far.
Yeah. How I kind of got into coaching, I knew I wanted to coach, I want to say like my junior year in high school. Sounds really crazy, but I went to a softball camp for like 7 days when I was in high school. And I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life after like going to college. I'm like, this is awesome. Just like the environment, I was around so many coaches, the influences they had on myself. And so then going to college, for me, I was on both sides of the ball. So I was a pitcher and I was like a defensive player and a hitter. And so after I kind of graduated, I was like, I want to go be a GA. I want to get my master's, be done with that. And I took more of an approach. I went to a small NAIA school in Fulton, Missouri. Okay. And their GAs coached right from the get-go. Like their GAs were assistants. And so I was like, I'm coaching. And so I still remember, I'm like, I'm going to be a pitching coach for them. I literally just graduated. And I remember I joined the staff day one, and one of the pitchers on staff is like a year older than me. So I'm like, awesome, let's go, right? Like, how does this dynamic work, right? But early on, I knew I wanted to go into coaching. I felt like I knew could make an influence on all sides of the game, including, bringing like, the passion and the skill set all together. And, I've never like kind of looked back other than learn from the moments that I've grown from. But, with pitching, it's always been a passion of mine. I was the pitcher that was more of a spin pitcher, a junk ball, all of that. And I've been surrounded by so many different types of pitchers that I think that it's kind of helped me that I don't see things through like just one lens. I see them through like multiple lenses. So yeah, that's what kind of got me in. And, the influences that have kind of shaped just in general. I mean, let's go all the way back to when like softball kind of started, but pitchers used to slingshot the ball in there, right? Like literally arm back all the way through, and we're having success. And then we get this windmill. And I mean, it's dating back, but like, I mean, one of the best pitchers was Joan Joyce that actually coached at FAU. And just seeing how she took the game from where it was to like where it's at, and then all the different types of pitchers that I've been blessed to like play against or compete against have really like shown me that there's such a broad spectrum of different types of pitchers. So love being able to do that every single day.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's super special to go back and watch athletes, from before, when I played, and kind of look at them through a different lens now, and getting into the MP world, and really just diving back and appreciating their movements and how they've generated their swing and their energy, and through feels and just conversations. And I think it's always really, really cool to look back and see how many different movers there have been, and outside of MP, just so many different ideas and concepts that people allow you to learn from. I think has always been something I've appreciated, and I know obviously you touched on too. So it's such a so cool to look back and see all the different movers and different thinkers that you've come into contact with.
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
like
Love
connecting
it.
the dots has been so
Yeah.
cool. And like learning, oh, like Matt and I do this still today. Like, oh, the kid that we played like with when we were freshmen, this is maybe how they translated and how they developed over the years. And this is what they focused on. And it kind of maybe didn't fulfill all their time, right? It was kind of like it didn't really help them, but that's always the fun part, to connect the dots for
Mhm.
sure. Um, One thing we started doing last month, and we've kind of liked it so far, is kind of starting off by asking our guests in their own words, how would you describe motor preferences?
My biggest thing is like, I think of it as like the individual, like that person's like most efficient way to move, right? In such a their own unique way. Like that's how I see it. And then like the next part, like in a different way, is if you ever I think of it as like showing up to a field and seeing a hitter or a pitcher have some weird type of like motion or like start, and a coach going, oh, well, they need to fix this, or this. But like that's how they naturally move. And like, I don't know, it's that like unique way that individualizes them and puts them in the best way for them to have their own success.
Yeah, that's actually perfect. And the way I've been hearing it a lot lately, and or just seeing things, has been, when people are themselves, they're at their best, whatever it is, whatever they're doing, right? Whether it's competing in softball, or it's painting, or whatever they're doing from a day to day. Like when you're yourself, you're at your best because you can just be free, right? And I
Right.
started thinking about that from like a motor preferences lens of, well, when you're yourself and you get to do things that you enjoy, and do it your own way, and it kind of makes sense to you, then you're going to do it to the best of your ability. You're going to love doing it. And hopefully that turns into and how we care about things, winning a lot of
Right.
games. So that's what's going to be the best part of it.
I think that's
Yeah.
like some of the best words, and the ways to put it is seeing it as how it is, as it is, rather than how we want it to be. I think we say that till we're blue in the face, and I think when coaches start to understand what that really means, and something might look weird, or something might not make sense to them, but it might be right to that person that we're watching. So we're always huge proponents of observing and just
Yes.
watching, like, and
Yeah.
take it as it is. Like, okay, this is how they're moving. Great. We don't know if that is natural. We don't know if that's learned. That's just where they're at right now, and that's fine. We don't have to try to push them towards one way because we don't know yet. So,
Yeah.
such a cool way to put it.
So before you were at Kansas, you were at Maryland. You kind of got exposed to motor preferences. Kind of take us through that story, that backstory of your first interaction with it and initial thoughts from it.
Yeah, I remember our coaching staff talking about it because I want to say our head coach had talked to Swope about it and was like trying to find a time for him to just come into this like one of the staff meetings. And Swope came into one of the staff meetings and started just talking, and we're all just sitting there like, okay, like what's he talking about? Right? Like you hear like surface level.
Hmm.
And he started talking about, obviously it started off with like aerial, terrestrial, things like that. And he was talking about everybody has certain preferences. And I remember he like had myself and one of our assistants stand up and he like did a quick test and he's like, "You're this." And I was like, "Okay, like what's that mean?" Like, and he was saying like certain, like comparing it to like certain players that are this or this or this or that. And like what terrestrials prefer versus aerials prefer, like just kind of things like that. And as I'm sitting there, I'm just like going back in my head, going, oh, I was thinking about past players, like, oh my gosh, like, wow, did I do something wrong? Like, you start questioning things. And so I remember him saying, like, when he had first learned, he's like, I didn't sleep for like weeks or whatever. And my head's just constantly going. So he started talking about they're like blue or red. And funny story, just like off of it. I remember him at this point talking about it. And my son was like 9 months old. And he would sleep in his room and we had a light that was red. And he wasn't sleeping well. And I remember I like changed it over to blue, like as it's and he started sleeping. And I remember sending Swope a message and being like, telling him about, and he's like, go to sleep, like just in general, like you're over, like, And so I still laugh about that to this day. So anyways, then like fast forward, we started, he had brought himself and I believe Tommy came over and tested our players. And, we got some just basic surface level things to kind of start with. And he had told us kind of just like take a few players at a time and like start incorporating small things. And I think I was like, the path that it started was really helpful instead of just being like all this information and then go figure it out. And so I kind of implemented some of that stuff in right away to a couple of our pitchers. And I think there was like some obvious success from them. So yeah.
I think that's so cool. Like your initial reaction is the reaction we get a lot of times, whether it's in clinics or someone's taking an e-course and whatnot. And the cool part about it is it's less about it's more about, okay, the vocabulary. It's like a foreign language.
Yeah.
When you start to peel back the onion and you start aerial, okay, more of an extension-based athlete, or terrestrial, more of a grounded-based, like verbiage we already use in our industry. So once you learn, like, yes, we have to label the science in order to communicate about it. But then
Mhm.
once you learn what the different, names mean, then you just start talking in your own brain about things we already talked about in our industry. And I think it's really cool that you touched on, like, you automatically went back to players that you were like, yes, that's definitely why this didn't work, or yes, that's why this worked for this player. And that's the cool part is what we're doing is not reinventing the wheel by any means. It's just giving the why behind maybe this worked better for this player, or this cue gave them that aha moment because of this, or yeah, this didn't necessarily help them, but it didn't necessarily hurt them either. It kind of just didn't mean anything to them. So I think like
Mhm.
that's something huge that we always try to get across. And obviously being able to work with you for the past couple years has been so awesome. But not reinventing the wheel, just giving some why, some more targeted answers to the individual in front of us. And then once you start to understand the vocabulary, it becomes like second nature talking about it. We talk with different staffs and different people, and once you learn kind of the meaning of the terms, it's very easy to communicate about it. And I think that common language, hopefully in the end will allow our community, the softball community, the softball industry to have really, really good conversations about the individual players in front of them rather than making it broad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt, you just kind of mentioned like the conversation and similar languages. Laura, have you seen from a communication standpoint with your players that's changed at all or kind of made an impact or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the gate, I mean, it made an impact. I mean, I think there was like we talked about it, like, there's curiosity of what's happening, right? Like, what's the why to the why? But I think the biggest part is like taking what they're already good at, right? But putting them in like the profiles that make them have a little bit more success in certain areas. And for me, I think things have clicked right away, instead of like taking a breakdown of what a profile is of certain things and being like, you need to do this and then this and then this. Like some of the things, like, let's just say this, like in the start of a pitcher, where your glove positioning is makes sense based off of your axial or large, right? It's kind of crazy, but a lot of those kids already do that because that's what feels so comfortable to them, right? And so I don't even like reach the subject with them about that part of it because they're already doing it. It's
Mhm.
finding other areas to help them, you know, uh, have a little bit more feel of understanding of what this actually is versus just being like, okay, you're this and you have to do this.
No,
You're X, yeah,
100%. 100%. I think like the biggest thing we work with players and when we do these assessments is, you guys are obviously working with very high level athletes. And most people through trial and error are going to figure out what feels comfortable to them. And maybe it's
right.
one or two things you might talk to them from a cue standpoint, which helps them become more repeatable. You talked about, when Swope first, did some assessments and you started integrating, piece by piece. If you were giving advice to a trained coach, that had just started this journey, like what was one or two things in that first initial like learning curve for you that you felt were like, oh, low-hanging fruit and this is like easy to do and it's not going to overwhelm my players?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is finding out like based off of a preference, like especially like the move dial in your feet, like taking a few small things. I think one of the biggest impacts was move dial and your extension leg.
Hmm.
In pitching specifically, like if you're a righty pitcher and your right foot's like your lead leg, like you're about to like run,
Hmm.
you've been taught your whole life to like push off of that foot only, basically. Whereas, like, if you're left leg extension, like that left leg has to create a lot of the push through the front side, through the move dial. And so, what I'm like, for those people who are getting some of those things, it's like finding the small features that a player might already be in their move dial, right? But
Hmm.
like videoing slowly, like, are they getting and letting them see it? Because I think being able to see what they're doing and feel what they're doing are two opposite things. Because I think at different levels, kids don't feel a lot of things. What'd you feel there? Oh, I don't know. When they see it, they're able to mimic it over and over and over again. And so I think taking someone who's like teaching at whatever like level is just doing that constantly and getting them to understand, getting the player to feel like comfortable in their own unique way. But by them doing it, I'll hear more so players say, I try to tell them like less is more a lot of times. And they'll be like, I feel like I didn't have to work that hard for that. And you're like, oh, so you get them to like understand what they're doing versus what you're just teaching them, right?
Hmm.
Like, so to me, like out there, just be surface level. I don't think you have to make this like scientific, like crazy, like in different ways. I think it's the cues that you come up with and you stick with them and find out if that cue works for that individual. And if not, try a couple different because eventually things will click and then you're not having to repeat yourself over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that. Like we've Matt and I've talked a lot about like you never even have to tell your player that they're a left extension leg and a left motor shoulder. And if that doesn't make sense to them, like if that verbiage like is gonna kind of screw them up, then just say that we're gonna cue
Yeah.
from the left side or
Yeah.
whatever it may be, right? We don't have to use those terms necessarily. And we can use cues or descriptive words that still surround that. So if we see a player, a high level player that's left extension leg, we can kind of describe them and say they're springy off their left leg. Why don't we try to be a little
True.
springy here and just see if it works and
Yeah.
kind of stack those odds and work towards getting those answers a little bit more right. One thing I'm curious, and Matt and I always talk about this because we're avid learners when it comes to the pitching side in softball. Um, what are some of like the industry trends, like the things, the staples that you've seen over the years, whether it's we got to be really springy off the, arm side leg. So if I'm a right-handed pitcher, right leg, we got to be springy off that right ball of the foot. Um, things like that. What have you seen in terms of industry trends?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I think it used to be that. I think a big thing is always the statement that's said is like, and I hear it more based off of I'm terrestrial, so like stay in your legs, and it's like, yes, but that's not always where like the energy's coming from, right? Like it's there, but there's different parts. I would say just a lot of like being strong on your front side, that gets said a lot, but if that's not where their balance equals, sometimes that's not the area of comfort, when landing, it kind of throws off body and being kind of stacked in their pitch. And for me, I think it comes back to there's different, I mean, just in baseball, there's different types of pitchers, right? Like you're going to have your pitchers who are going to be your like power speed pitchers, and you're going to have your pitchers who are going to be a change of speed pitchers. And you know for us, like you have to have a mix of all of it, right, for the success of beating opponents. But like when you're working with all of them, a lot of times the ones that are the spinny speed or spinny change of speed pitchers will like to hear what you're comparing to with the power pitchers. And that's where I think some of the trends come in, because the kids can't decide, like, am I power with spin? Am I like change of speed with spin? And it comes from two different areas, right? Like, and some people are just truly blessed with certain things in their life, right? Like how they're built, their strength, right? Like their arm width. I mean, it comes to it. I mean, we have one of the fastest pitchers that threw, what is it, like 78.2, and I could be wrong, in softball, right? Like you're asking a kid that is in high school to like compare herself to that. That's if they're a spin speed pitcher. So anyways, like the trends more so are, that type of stuff. And I think we're shifting it right now to individualize the pitchers based off of, the technology of, like the Rapsodo, like the spin rates. You can get a pitcher who's maybe throwing upper 60s and their spin rates like 1200. Just let's use this. And then you're going to get a 63-mile-an-hour pitcher who's 1700, right? Like spin rate. I mean, both of them are hard to hit, but like what's working for that individualized player? And so that's where the trends kind of go into. And I believe that MPs, people who have their hands on MPs and are working it and developing these things, like I think pitchers are going to develop at a faster rate because they're going to learn themselves early on versus later.
I love that. Yeah, that's the goal of it, right? And you kind of mentioned it before when it comes to the awareness that players have. We have like the good players more than ever. How'd that feel? Good. What's this like? Good. Like I need some more than that. And I think part of it is they've just kind of worked. Some of them have just worked against themselves and kind of pushed through those obstacles and trying to find something that kind of works for them. But through motor preferences, our goal is to say like, oh, this tell me when things don't feel good and when things actually come easy to you. You mentioned before that that was effortless. And when they look at you and kind of turn their heads and you're like, keep going. Like that's what we're trying to do. Like that's the goal here. That effortless feeling of like repeatability, number one, right?
Yes.
That's huge, especially, yes, like from a hitting standpoint, obviously super important. We want to be repeatable in all of our movements, but to be able to be consistently in the zone and put the ball where we want, we got to be repeatable in our moves. So I think that's such a big part. One of the things you mentioned that I'm so interested in is those off leg extension leg people. So right-handed pitcher, left leg extension. Without giving away all your secrets, kind of tell us about that process, that the learning curve that you had, because it's not an easy cue, right? When we're trying to cue those people, that gas pedal from the opposite side. Um, what have you seen that tends to work a little bit more compared to others?
Yeah. Well, number one, I think looking at it from I'm trying to like just go back to our pictures because I have a lot of left leg extension aerials. And I'm terrestrial. So like I had to find different ways and different drills for them to understand how that's produced. And for me, I feel like it has changed their spin more than anything, right? Like, so for them to understand just some like small little drills that I like kind of put in there is for them to understand that their left extension leg had to drive like out, and you wanted it to create more power before the right foot left. I would put like a hurdle in front of their left leg, right? Like to feel force, feel their move dial kind of move through. I've put everything. I've grabbed like bands to help pull them just to feel. And the other thing that I started doing is most of them are aerials that they like to bounce, right? Like they want a little bit of, they want the spring. I started doing, I think I sent some video, but like them skipping into some of their pitches to feel the spring of where they're feeling their left extension leg. So when they're doing it, they have to go off their left extension leg. And to be honest with you, I think it has helped them understand where they need to get out to. And it's not just one of those things where if you watch a pitcher, like, look how far they're jumping out. Like you want to be this distance. They're getting to the distance that's the most comfortable for them versus just getting somewhere because that's what used to be told, right? And it's creating them in their body positioning to put themselves in an area to spin the ball better, to get more explosion better. And I said it a little bit earlier, but they're telling me that like, Coach, hey, I feel like I'm doing like, I'm not like killing myself to, to work harder. You know what I mean? Like I'm not putting myself out there and making myself tired by putting this. So by them having that like equal distribution and getting their explosion, their extension like exploding, I think it's put them in a place to be comfortable,
Yeah, 100%. I think like the two themes I keep hearing from, what you're so good at is giving them the freedom to work, like giving them, like allowing them to have that momentum and that rhythm. And, by understanding that they're aerials and they prefer to stay in motion, like giving them that freedom through drills to explore and have some of that tempo into their moves and allowing them to give you feedback about how that feels. So like that is really, really cool to see. And then also like, I also noticed like, okay, you acknowledge yourself, like maybe I can't feel these things when I was a pitcher. This doesn't make much sense to me. But you also know you're able to coach to the opposite because you're
Yeah.
aware of where they have more heightened sensations or a higher proprioception here, or hey, this is aligned with, this type of mover. They prefer to be in rhythm and momentum. Let's do something around this theme. And so I think you do a really, really good job of giving that freedom to explore within that. And also like having the information on yourself, like, hey, even though I can't really feel this sensation, I know this can be something that might click a little bit sooner for them. So I think that's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
I'm curious, like this is yet now your third year kind of exposed or fourth year now?
Around that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Roughly.
so
Give or
third,
take,
fourth, we'll say fourth.
Mhm.
So being involved in it for 3 to 4 years now, how have you seen that progression in terms of like, have you changed the way you do things from a application standpoint? Do you have the same structure in the fall that you've kind of had? Or how has that kind of changed or adapted over the years since the integration of motor preferences?
Um, I would say it's definitely changed. My falls look a little bit different. Um, I think more so I try to like I do a lot more in the fall of one-on-ones with them. Um, just so that I'm spending that quality time of those conversations that may take a little bit longer, right? Like, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm not feeling. And I'm like, at the end of the day, you're pitching. I want you to be in the most comfortable position. Those are the conversations that we're having. But what I like to do is I was doing a Zoom one day with someone and they were talking about work mode and game mode. And I implemented like split between the week, and it's like work mode, and work mode just means there's a lot of dialogue that's going into our conversations of when we're in bullpens. We might be doing like a competitive bullpen, but it might be in work mode where that lingo is going to happen based off of development of a certain pitch or those type of things. And then I throw them to like a day where we've just worked on so many different areas, like help them develop certain things that maybe they didn't think could be developed that way, but because of the preference that they are, getting them to understand, like if someone's like a supinator, right? And with their release, and you're trying to teach them like a drop ball, and it's like they're pronating and it's not comfortable for them. The work mode days are like them working on telling them, let's throw a fastball, let's grip it this way, and then pull out Rapsodo and show them the numbers of what your ball's actually doing. Has been helpful for them to develop instead of leaving out that like, well, it looks like it's spinning, but really is it? And then on days like, I'm like, hey, you're going out and you're throwing live today and it's game mode. I don't want any talk about what your body's doing, what anything's doing. I want you to take what you've been working on, and I want you to go out there and I want you to go into game mode and go compete. Right. And so I feel like for me, that's how some of my development has like kind of transitioned over the years, whereas we would have those conversations all the time. And I want them to take what they're learning and then have the dialogue and then take the dialogue away and be competitors, because that's what you are, you know? But overall, there's been, I have a large staff this year. And so I feel like with MPs, I had to spend a lot more quality time in the bullpen. And but the players love it. And the best part about it is like they feel that it's like their path, not two pitchers' paths working together. Their path, what they're on, and working on what they're great at, not what four people in the bullpen are great at. So
That's a really good way to put it. One thing that you were saying that kind of stuck out to me is the ability to kind of separate the two, right? Like that's kind of the theme of how you've adapted over time. But I see it from a lens of you're actually allowing them to problem solve during the game live, right? Like so many times, obviously coaches aren't going to be out there with the player, right? They're going to have to make decisions on the fly. From a pitching perspective, if you throw two balls in a row, three balls in a, you have to be able to make that correction and say, I'm going to get back into the zone and we're going to get back to what we're trying to do and execute, right? So the ability to problem solve live increases by what it sounds like, and kind of giving them the information, allowing for this educational side of things, allowing them to fail and go through that process from a practice standpoint. And then once it's game mode, it's like, hey, everything we just did, we're kind of taking it and we're going to play it live and we're going to figure it out and just see how everything goes and just compete, to your point. And the other part that I really like is the pitch design side of things, right? How have you seen the MPs kind of playing to pitch design, supinators that might tend to favor certain pitches and pronators that might favor a couple other pitches? How have you seen that kind of play into pitch design?
Yeah, I think it's honestly created a lot more conversation for us to understand, and like you don't have to have all these pitches. Because a lot of people feel that way. They're like, okay, I got to throw a rise, drop, curve, change, screw, blah, 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 whatever it is. And for me, I'm just like, I take that information of what they have, what they've come in with, and a lot of them will ask, like, and this has been over the past, few universities, but like, I need this. And I'm like, yes, but you might need it in a different way. Like, you don't need it taught this way, right? And so for me, I think of a player who comes in, who's, let's just say, like arm side, rise ball, screwball, like curveball, and has a changeup, and they want to throw a little bit something different. Everybody will say, like, okay, we're going to just throw, another changeup. We're going to try to teach you this different type of changeup. And for me, what I like to do is I'll take your best pitch and we'll off speed it and put you into a comfortable position, right? Like where you're putting a little bit more pressure in different parts of your hands versus saying, hey, you need to learn this new pitch, because we all know when a coach says we need to learn this new pitch, they get more focused on that and sometimes lose some of the really good stuff. And so for me, I'm very big on making sure that you have two really good spin pitches. You can command the zone and you must throw changeup. Like that's something, some type of off speed, something like that. And so for me, I have them. I think it comes back to with the like pitch design and pitch key of it is with numbers don't lie on Rapsodo stuff. And so if we're working through it and they're like, I want to throw this, and I'm like, it's not getting that spin, but it's getting this spin. So let's develop that part of it. That's when their buy-in comes, because they see it immediately versus being like, no, I want to do this. And if they do, like, I'm going to work through it with them. I'm going to say, but hey, you can also throw this fastball and it has this much, break, like -5 drop ball break on your fastball. Why are we going to want to learn it as if you're a supinator, why are we going to want to pronate it? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm also finding this out while doing it. It's taking that I'm having less injuries trying things that don't work to their profile.
That's really, really interesting. I think like we're super in on like the biomechanical data and the spin data and the pitch design data. I think it's such an awesome tool to really, check like, am I getting the action that I'm wanting to get here? And it's less about comparing my action to other people's and how their action looks, but is it going to be effective for me, in terms of getting outs? Because that's what we want to do. And then you add the layer of MP, which is another tool on top of that. And now you can get really targeted in the type of arsenal you can have, and you're using those guidelines that aren't rigid. And maybe I have a change up and I might throw it with a little less pronation if I'm a supinator, or maybe I'm a pronator and really diving into like feeling that pronation through that pitch and adjusting speeds that way. So I think those two tools together, we've seen coaches who are able to mirror the two be really, really successful, because not only are you, enhancing the arsenal and making it very tough to read as a hitter, but you're also cognizant of the fact of what plays into this player's strengths. Like I'm teaching them a new pitch, but I know it's something they can handle the volume that we're going to do, and I can monitor that and make sure that they are still feeling healthy rather than trying to force something that's not. As you related to recruiting, like how has MP impacted your recruiting? Have you felt that, you feel good with a certain profile? Have you taken a lot of people and said, like, I feel really good with everybody and know how to handle everybody? Like, how has that impacted your recruiting just from an observation standpoint?
Yeah. I think, well, for me, just kind of like looking at it, I feel comfortable on both sides of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's more of like, even though it's on both sides, there's still so many different things within an aerial or terrestrial, right? Like, but I also think you have to have a mix, because I think different types of people bring different types of things to the table. But for me, like watching, I try to see like when you're watching a pitcher, where are they getting on their front side? Where are they on their, like, where can you tell their extension leg kind of is? Things like that I'm looking for. And then what type of pitch are they throwing with those type of things, right? Or are they just throwing their 3 like best pitches and commanding the zone, right? Because at the end of the day, like coaches want kids who are going to compete, repeatability, like over and over again. But it's helped me kind of just like dive into like, I feel comfortable. And as coaches, like you go out there and you go, okay, that pitcher out there is doing this, but I know if I can just help her fix this one little area, this thing's she's gonna have a lot more success. That's where I kind of get into. And then, I'm a big believer you have to have a changeup. So when I go out and watch pitchers that can't get their body into a place of like getting a changeup, that's hard, right? Like teaching a changeup is hard. And especially it happens for those that do throw very, very high levels of speed, and but for me overall, I feel comfortable finding the different balances and the kids who are going to compete with what they do have versus worry about being all over the zone. And more so those kids that kind of get a little bit all over the zone, one little fix can fix something with that, right? Like we talk about it that, hey, there's one little thing missing, right? And sometimes it's going to take those long conversations to figure that out too.
I think I love asking that question and tapping into your expertise and how you handle the recruiting landscape, because I think there's so many endless possibilities with the tools that we have available to us right now, whether it's, from biomechanical data, whether it's from an MP standpoint. Like there are so many players that you could go out there and be like, wow, they're really working against themselves, but I see the
Yes.
talent and I can take them and I know I can help them with
Yeah.
some targeted information. There's also players that you can go out and watch and be like, wow, this player is moving really free. It looks really effortless. Like they're seemingly looking like they're moving a lot more in profile and in the ranges of motion they prefer to work in. And okay, when they come in, I know I don't have to make as many changes with them. And now it becomes very cue based and very competitive based. So I think the possibilities are like super endless, and it gives maybe hope's not the right word, but it gives you the freedom as a coach to be like, okay, I can go at this a lot of different angles from the kids we're bringing into the program, as long as they line up from a mentality standpoint that align with what our culture is like. So I always love tapping into that question because I think it's endless.
What would you say, just kind of on the same realm of the more of the younger side in terms of recruiting and going through that process, what would you say is some advice that you would give for younger players that are getting involved more and more into softball? They're trying to figure themselves out in terms of what kind of pitcher they are. Are they a speed or are they a power pitcher, right? We kind of talked about that. What advice would you give to them to try to figure out kind of how to navigate that from a development side, but also like expectations and kind of how they're getting into or when they get to college?
Yeah. I think from like for the more younger ages of it, I just like I believe finding out like as they're navigating and they're watching other pitchers, like take things that people might be doing and does it work for you? Right. Like I remember being young and trying like 18 different motions because I would see on TV this person do this, or this. But like at the end of the day, like you're your unique self and be good at what you're good at. Right. Like if you know that you're a change of speed pitcher and or just throw different spin, speed, all of the above, like, and you're going out there and you're producing ground balls and getting outs, like that's how you are and you develop into that, right? And I will use that into when I was at Maryland, the girl that had as many saves, I think she had 12 plus saves. That's what she did. And she owned it. Like, and I loved who she was. And the pitchers that started were throwing 70 plus, right? And so be who you are. And as far as the development piece, I don't think it's as much as development, like what pitch can I throw next? Like I need to throw this next. Get good at like what you're doing and repeat it over and over again. Because your body changes as like growth happens, right? Your arms might get a little longer, your feet might get a little bigger, and you're going to have to develop into what your body's growth is doing. And so as you can keep doing that, the more and more you get your arm going, you get really good at hitting your spots, commanding the zone, changing your speed, and then keep developing of the pitches that work best for what your body does. And like feeling comfortable without injury, those type of things are really important, but be your own unique self. And as much as everybody says it, like comparison's the thief of joy, right? Like watch the comparison you're doing because as you're growing, coaching staffs are looking for every type of pitcher for a staff, not the same. Because when you have to make changes, you don't want to go to the next person that looks like the one that just came out. So, and be confident in who you are.
I love that. I love everything about that. Like finding like uniquely what works for you. And like I couldn't emphasize more like I think growing up, like I was huge at with exploration. Like I tried to mimic so many different hitters. I tried to feel so many different things. And I think, the difference between, doing that for the exploration and then also doing that and thinking there is one what right way to do it. I think that exploration is like so huge because it not only teaches you like what might feel good, but also what might not feel good. Oh my God, I couldn't talk right there. What might not feel good. And I think like it's so important and give yourself as an athlete like that freedom to be like, okay, if this is what feel good, that's okay. And if this is what felt bad, I thought this was a player that, really is what I had to swing like or what I had to pitch like, but it doesn't feel good, that's okay. So I think that exploration is so huge in the youth movement and not trying to, make these youth players try to move a specific way so early on because I think the exploration is so huge just for, finding yourself. And then when you get to a certain age where you can handle more information, and this is where I wish I knew from a college
Yes.
athlete standpoint of like, okay, I want to like a really good way to learn is by mimicking, but am I mimicking the players that move similar to me? Not exactly like me, but similar to me. I tried for forever to try to have a short finish like Trout, just to
Yeah.
find out that I was back motor shoulder and had a longer finish like Griffey. I tried to finish with my hands above my shoulder like so many different players that, have great swings just to find out that of course I was ripping across because I was horizontal. So, like, finding the athletes that, maybe it's one thing you take from them, maybe where their elbows are starting, or maybe where their weight is in their start. I think like now we can give athletes some targeted players to watch and take in piecemeal rather than the full global picture, which is, I think, really, really exciting for the future.
Yeah, for sure.
I think of it like you saying all that, like no, I think about my career and I remember times where I would throw a pitch and be like, that that was not my mechanics. Like that, I didn't feel like myself there. And would have to like go back and think about what I'm doing. And now I think of it from, the move dial perspective of like spending too much time on my backside when I probably should have just got to the front side and I felt cleaner and smoother and more like myself. I remember just so many times being like, what the heck was that? Like that that wasn't me. I definitely agree with
No,
that.
I feel you on that. I was a drop ball pitcher and I remember everybody trying to like teach me a rise ball and I fiz every rise ball and there wasn't the technology that we have now, right? And I'm like every rise ball's dropping, right? Because it was like something natural that came. So I was like, I'm just gonna spot a fastball up and in, right? And then I'm like, but if it gets hit out of the park, like that's it's flat. Like, what am I doing? And so, but also the same thing of like hitting. Since I'm terrestrial, I remember hitting one of the ways of hitting it was like put your weight on the inside balls of your feet. And I remember going, I physically cannot stand like this.
That's awesome.
And I call my old coach from back then too, and I'm like, Coach, I'm gonna be honest, I did it in practice for you, but when I got up to bat, that is not where I went. Like I physically would have fallen over. And he was like, I know, like, but the whole point is that's how like the trends of certain things happen, right? I used to
Yep.
think as a pitcher, like I loved watching different pitchers' motions. And I said, people aren't going to figure out what I'm throwing is if I change my motion each pitch. I would try like a different one. And they're like, oh my gosh.
I like that.
Oh.
I love that so much. And I think like when you start talking to us about our own careers and the feedback we have from things that we tried, like I think that's like such a huge proponent is getting the athlete feedback because only you know if that felt right. Yes, we can see externally like, yes, that looks free, that looks repeatable, but like having that dialogue where if your coach had asked you how does that feel with your weight here, like you probably would have said that doesn't feel great, coach. Or when Nick talks about like every time he tried to get in his back, like he felt stuck or it didn't feel good, like that feedback is super valuable. And now we can, instead of being like, well, here, constrain this to get you more here so it feels better, like, no, let's play into like what actually feels good for the athlete. So I love that. On the topic of athletes, let's talk about KU this year. Like, what makes you excited about your team this year and in the upcoming season?
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, we have a large pitching staff, which I'm really excited about because I know for you baseballers, like a large pitching staff doesn't seem like a lot, but in softball, it's we've got 9 on staff, and they
Wow.
all bring something really awesome to the table. Like every time I show up to a bullpen, like I just can't wait. Like, and it's been all fall too, it's that feeling of like there's a lot of pieces to put together
Mhm.
that, if we're playing a team that does this, like we have something else that can do the opposite, things like that. And they've just really bought into, we have a strong culture of like just buying into like being free and playing for one another. And so that part of it, we've done a lot of live hitting all fall, even out here. Like it's helped on both sides of the ball. Like everybody's just been working, and the conversations that are happening, that are player led, that's what makes you smile as a coach, because it just kind of gets you eager to be out there. But just a lot of good stuff. Really excited to like be out there. I'm actually, as a pitching coach, excited to call a game against another team and not our own hitters.
Not your own. Yep.
And but it's true. And our hitters have done a great job. Coach Justin has been, working with them so much, and with MPs, and just seeing cool things that have changed, like for some of them. And like, it's been fun to watch, because on my side, like I'll even try to scout MPs, different things. And it's been fun to see it from that side of it, and just be hungry for, all the work that they've put in and continue to do every day. So I'm just super blessed.
Oh, I love it. This gets me fired up. One word to describe the 2026 Jayhawk softball team. Give me one word.
Well, our one word for this year actually is family, but it has a special meaning. And so, and it's, I'll share it, but it's, we read the book, The Twin Thieves this year.
Mm-hmm.
Really awesome. But in the book, it's family, and it's forget about me, I love you. And, it's just putting like oneself, focusing on the people around you versus being so focused on the inside part of yourself. And so just really excited, but, that's kind of where we're at. And, we've had a group of seniors that have been around for a while now, and just, it just pumps you up, so.
Rock chalk.
Rock
Rock
chalk.
Talk is right. We are we're really appreciative of you coming on on the show, and we're so excited to be watching you guys this season. Matt and I joke, like we had a blast coming out and meeting the whole team, and spending time with you guys, and it's been a blast just being able to connect, and building our relationship over the past couple of years. So like I said, we appreciate you, wishing nothing but the best of luck this year, and we're excited. So until next time.
Rock chalk.
Rock chalk.